At some point in your life, you've probably been exposed to information about sharks. Whether that means watching Jaws, reading an article about an incident that happened, or binge watching Shark Week. Whatever it may be, you've probably been exposed to some sort of information about sharks. Now, one of my personal favorite things to do is free dive with sharks. My husband and I often take trips to travel and see different kinds of sharks and swim with them. It's really cool to see sharks in their natural habitat and see just how gentle and misunderstood that they are. So a couple of things I want to share with you are tips and tricks on what people can do when swimming in the ocean where there is a potential for sharks that would help keep them safe and help sharks to not misunderstand what they are. So sharks are apex predators, and when you're swimming in the water with sharks, it's important to let them know that you are a fierce predator yourself. So one of the main things to do if you encounter a shark when swimming is to make sure that you never turn your back on them. If a shark is ever swimming towards you, it's important to look them directly in the eye, tell them, not physically tell them, but imagine telling them like, I'm fierce too. So you're supposed to look them in the eye and just make yourself look as big as you can. So you might maybe puff your chest out, lift your arms up a little bit, maybe if you're wearing fins, flap your fins kind of in front of you, and just make yourself look large. This would kind of deter the shark and make them realize that you're not prey. If you turn your back on the shark, then you're instantly prey. They know that you're afraid of them and they are on the top of the food chain. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing when swimming with sharks is to make sure you avoid splashing and basically too much movement with your hands in the water. So sharks oftentimes feed on injured birds and seals, and what does an injured bird do when it's on the top of the water and it can't fly? It's doing a lot of splashing. So it's really important to not splash a ton when you're in waters where there is a potential for sharks. As far as using your hands when you swim, a lot of people are used to kind of spreading their fingers out and using them to help them swim. But to a shark, this looks like a jellyfish. So it's important when you're swimming with sharks to not use your hands too much, and if you do, keep your fingers together, maybe do 2 strokes with your arms, and then hold your arms to your chest. This kind of keeps you as one unit and keeps sharks from maybe thinking you're something that you're not. That is one thing about sharks, is when you hear about a shark attack, a shark takes a bite out of somebody and then spits them out because they realize that's not what they thought it was. They might, bite into a human and say, that's not a bird, I don't like the way that tastes, and spit it out. So some other things with sharks is they are very dominant creatures. They like to be in charge. So one of the ways that sharks kind of establish their hierarchy is their position in the water. The most dominant sharks typically swim towards the surface of the water, and the less dominant sharks swim towards the bottom of the ocean. So if you want to make sure to establish your dominance while in the water, it's important that you swim on the surface of the water and don't dive down past a shark. The second that you dive down underneath a shark, you're saying, I'm beneath you, I'm your prey, you're ahead of me, and you don't want to do that. Another thing when swimming with sharks is to watch out for different signs of their aggression. If they are becoming irritated with you being in their space, or maybe they're becoming irritated with other sharks being in their space. So some common signs that you can look for when swimming with sharks are gill popping, which is essentially what it sounds like. Their gills kind of flare out a little bit, and that's usually the initial sign. They're telling you that they're a little bit frustrated and they need their space, and that's usually a good sign to get out of the water. Another thing with sharks is their piggybacking. So because they have that sort of hierarchy of being the one on top in the water, they'll oftentimes piggyback on top of each other to say, I'm on top, no, I'm on top, no, I'm on top. So if you ever see anything like that, it's a good idea to get out of the water. And then one last thing that sharks do that is a serious sign that they are becoming aggressive and don't want to be bothered is when they swim towards whatever target, whether it be a shark or you, swim towards and then sort of thrash away. And when they do that movement, they're really trying to tell you to get away. So those are just some cool tips and tricks that I know about swimming with sharks, and maybe some things that'll help you remain safer in the water and in the ocean when there is a potential for sharks. And keep in mind that when you are in the ocean, you are swimming in their house, and they live there, and we are guests. So I hope you enjoyed this speech, and thanks for listening.